A leather-jacketed greaser walks into a bathroom. He reaches for his comb. Then he stops because his hair is already perfect. And just like that, television history is made. Except that moment was completely improvised by an actor who was only supposed to have 6 lines in the entire pilot. Here's something wild to think about. The most beloved characters in television history, they nearly didn't exist. We're talking network memos calling shows weak. Actors walking out of their own auditions. The characters that defined American television from the 70s through the early 2000s survived rejection, near cancellation, and casting disasters that would have killed lesser projects. These aren't exaggerated Hollywood rumors. They're well-documented stories that reveal just how chaotic and unpredictable the creative process really is. Today, we're counting down 11 iconic TV characters who came dangerously close to never appearing on our screens. And honestly, by the end of this, you'll never look at your favorite shows the same way. If you're into deep dives on the shows that shaped our childhoods, go ahead and subscribe. Ring that notification bell so you catch our next trip down memory lane. All right, let's get into it. Number 11, Jack Bauer. 24. We're kicking off our countdown with a character whose entire show started as a joke about dreading work. Joel Surnow came up with the concept for 24 while standing in his bathroom, absolutely dreading another 22-episode season of television. Then this thought hit him. 24 episodes. Like 24 hours. What if there was a season covering just one day in real time? So he calls his partner, Robert Cochran. Cochran wants to know the story. Surnow doesn't have one. The characters? Doesn't know. The genre? No idea. Cochran literally hung up on him. They eventually figured it out over pancakes at an IHOP. Not exactly a glamorous origin story for a groundbreaking thriller. When casting came around, Kiefer Sutherland took the role of Jack Bauer, mainly because he needed money. He was convinced no network would actually greenlight something this experimental. Take the paycheck. Show never airs. Nobody ever sees it. Easy. Fox bought the pitch the same day. Then, September 11th happened. The show was supposed to premiere that month. Surnow and Cochran genuinely thought their terrorism-themed series was dead on arrival. They pushed the premiere to November 6th, cut a trailer showing a commercial airplane exploding. But here's the twist. The post-9/11 climate actually made the show more relevant. Howard Gordon, one of the showrunners, said they were suddenly writing about a character fighting everybody's rage and confusion. The premiere got outstanding reviews. Sutherland won an Emmy. A show nobody thought would get picked up ran for 8 seasons. Number 10. Frasier, Crane, Cheers, and Frasier.
I think you'll find that once you've been a patient of mine, I'm always there when you... Oh, great.
Here's a character who was supposed to stick around for maybe 6 episodes. He lasted 20 years. Frasier Crane was created as a short-term romantic foil for Diane Chambers on Cheers. The role was written specifically for John Lithgow. Lithgow turned it down. Word is, he considered it beneath him. So the producers went with Kelsey Grammer instead. Juilliard-trained stage actor, recommended by his Broadway co-star, Mandy Patinkin. Grammer's audition? Disaster. He read in front of 20 people. Nobody laughed. Not one person. Grammer basically said he was going to go try to get laughs out on the street instead. Then, somehow, the producers sent him a bottle of champagne, welcoming him to Cheers. That 6-episode arc stretched to 9 seasons on Cheers. Then, 11 seasons of the spin-off Frasier. 20 consecutive years playing the same character from 1984 to 2004. Oh, and the spin-off's most essential character, Niles Crane, complete accident. An assistant casting director showed the creators a photo of David Hyde Pierce and asked if he didn't look like Kelsey did 10 years ago. So Pierce got the role after one meeting, even though he initially thought the script was terrible. His complaint was that they'd written 2 of the same character. Frasier won 37 primetime Emmys, 5 consecutive years of outstanding comedy series. By 2001, Grammer was pulling down $700,000 per episode, all for a character that almost went to someone who thought the role wasn't good enough for him. Number 9. Buffy Summers, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The 1992 Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie was a disaster by every measure. Joss Whedon created it out of frustration with horror cliches. You know the one. The dumb, oversexed blonde stumbling into a dark place to get killed. He wanted to flip that. The studio turned it into a broad comedy. It made just $16.6 million against a budget of $7 to $10 million. Whedon blamed the director, and especially Donald Sutherland, for improvising and making the dialogue incoherent. When his wife suggested he might get another shot at the concept, Whedon laughed at her. "That's not how Hollywood works," he said, except it did. Producer Gail Berman convinced Whedon to develop it for TV. Fox passed. NBC passed. The WB bought it in the room, but only as a mid-season replacement for a show called Savannah. Casting got interesting. Sarah Michelle Gellar originally auditioned for Cordelia Chase, not Buffy. She almost turned down the audition entirely because she was worried about getting typecast as the mean girl. Meanwhile, Charisma Carpenter auditioned for Buffy, even though she felt too old for the part at 26. Whedon saw something in Gellar and asked her to re-audition for the lead. Risky move. Could have cost her both roles. It worked. Ryan Reynolds turned down Xander Harris, by the way. And here's a fun one. One of the uncredited producers on the show? Dolly Parton, through her company, Sandollar Productions. The series premiered March 10th, 1997, became a defining show for the WB. A revival with Gellar reprising Buffy started filming in August 2025. Number 8. Steve Urkel, Family Matters.
Everybody party! You spoke too soon.
Steve Urkel was supposed to appear in exactly one episode of Family Matters. One episode, that's it. He was a one-shot nerd who takes Laura Winslow on a date. Episode 12. Laura's First Date, December 1989. Jaleel White was 12 years old. Everyone assumed this was a single appearance. The audience went crazy for him. Family Matters had premiered that September as a Perfect Strangers spinoff. The show was struggling. Mediocre ratings. Critics called the plots generic. Then Urkel showed up and everything changed. Scripts got rewritten. They filmed new opening sequences for episodes they'd already completed. By season 2, White was a regular. The character spawned cereal, a talking doll, massive merchandising. But the transformation caused real problems behind the scenes. White later said he was not welcomed to the cast at all. Jo Marie Payton and Reginald VelJohnson objected when White started playing multiple characters, including a female cousin named Myrtle Urkel. During the final CBS season, things got so bad that Darius McCrary had to physically separate Payton and White. The name Urkel came from co-creator Michael Warren's friend, a writer named Steve Urkel. Warren admitted that if he'd known the character would stick around for years, he wouldn't have used his friend's actual name. Caused some awkward situations. In 2020, Family Matters was streamed for 11.4 billion minutes, up 392% from the year before. A one-episode guest character became the show's entire legacy. Number 7. Dana Scully, The X-Files.
I need this building evacuated and cleared out in 10 minutes. I want you to call the fire department and have them block off the city center at a...
Fox Network executives had a very specific vision for Dana Scully on The X-Files. The documented notes say they wanted someone taller, leggier, blonder, breastier. Basically, Pamela Anderson from Baywatch. Creator Chris Carter had other ideas. When 24-year-old theater actress Gillian Anderson came in to audition in 1993, Carter wrote one word next to her name: test. The network pushed back hard. Carter said later that even though Jillian was beautiful, she wasn't their idea of sexy. Carter fought for her. He won. The battles didn't stop there. During season 1, Anderson got pregnant. Some executives wanted to recast Scully entirely. Carter refused. Instead, he wrote the alien abduction storyline to explain her absence. Tricky camera angles, trench coats, scenes where she stayed seated. Anderson doesn't appear at all in the episode 3 because she was giving birth to her daughter. Here's the thing though, that pregnancy crisis actually made the show better. It added layers to the conspiracy arc that became central to the whole series. David Duchovny almost passed on Fox Mulder too. He'd committed to a friend's film. The casting director had to call from Vancouver and offer to fly Chris Carter out personally. Plus a little more money. That's what it took. The series premiered September 10th, 1993. Ranked 105th out of 128 shows that first season. Cult hit at best. It eventually became one of Fox's biggest exports. 3 Golden Globes for Best Drama. A reboot from Ryan Coogler is currently in production. Number 6. The Simpsons.
Son, I know it may not seem like it now, but you're gonna be glad to have a sister when you grow up.
The Simpsons exist because Matt Groening panicked in a waiting room. Producer James L. Brooks wanted animated bumpers for the Tracy Ullman Show. He approached Groening about adapting his comic strip Life in Hell. Groening realized he'd have to give up publication rights to his life's work. He said no. Brooks asked if he had anything else. So Groening sketched the Simpson family right there in Brooks's office lobby. Named them after his own family members. Except he swapped in Bart for himself. An anagram of brat. The shorts became huge across 48 episodes of The Tracy Ullman Show, starting April 19th, 1987. But making the jump to a full series nearly killed the whole thing. The first episode they produced, Some Enchanted Evening, came back from animation looking so bad that 70% had to be completely redone. Producers talked about scrapping the entire series. If the next episode, Bart the Genius, had similar problems, they would have pulled the plug. Luckily, it only had minor issues. Fox executives were nervous about whether animation could even sustain 30-minute episodes. Some of them wanted 3 7-minute shorts instead. Homer's voice started as Dan Castellaneta doing a Walter Matthau impression. It evolved into the deeper voice we know because the impression was too hard to keep up. Nancy Cartwright came in to voice Lisa, but switched because she didn't want to be the boring middle child. She wanted to be a bratty 10-year-old boy. The Christmas special premiered December 17th, 1989, 13.4 million homes. Fox's first series to crack the top 30. By season 2, Bart Gets an F pulled 33.6 million viewers. The franchise is now worth an estimated $10 to $15 billion. The FXX syndication deal alone was $750 million. 37 seasons. Over 800 episodes. Longest-running American scripted primetime series ever. All because a cartoonist refused to give up his comic strip and improvised in a lobby. Number 5. Tony Soprano. The Sopranos.
You got a reputation for immaturity, and it's not going to be improved by not paying the tributes the acting boss demands of you.
James Gandolfini wasn't the first choice to play Tony Soprano. He wasn't the second choice either, or the third. David Chase originally wanted Robert De Niro for what he envisioned as a film. Then he pitched a TV version to Fox. They passed. When HBO picked it up, Chase's first choice was Anthony LaPaglia. LaPaglia disagreed with the characterization. He wanted Tony to be more urbane. Chase then wanted Steven Van Zandt, Bruce Springsteen's guitarist. 0 acting experience. HBO wouldn't take a chance on an untested lead. Van Zandt's contribution came by accident. He was sitting in the audition waiting room when he spotted Gandolfini. He mentioned to the casting director that Gandolfini had done excellent work in True Romance. The casting director, Susan Fitzgerald, had already noticed Gandolfini independently. Gandolfini's manager, Nancy Sanders, pitched him to Chase. Chase said he thought Gandolfini was brilliant, but had one concern. Was he threatening enough? Sanders' response became legendary. If that's your only concern, this is your guy. Then Gandolfini almost blew the whole thing. He walked out of his first audition, mid-performance, said he couldn't do this today. It took serious negotiating to get him back in the room. Even after landing the part, Gandolfini complained about doing an HBO series. He said he'd come to them to do movies. He didn't even know what the network was. Sanders told him it was the best writing she'd ever read. It wasn't going to change the world, she said, but it was going to change TV. The Sopranos premiered January 10th, 1999. Fewer than 4 million viewers. Peaked at 13.43 million for the season 4 premiere. The A&E syndication deal hit $200 million. Highest for a syndicated show at the time. Gandolfini won 3 Emmys. Vince Gilligan said it best. Without Tony Soprano, there would be no Walter White. Number 4, the Friends cast.
No, none. I mean, my first night in the city, he mentioned something about asking me out, but nothing ever happened, so I just...
Friends survived casting chaos that nearly cost the show 2 of its 6 leads. The show went through 4 different titles before they settled on Friends. Insomnia Cafe, Friends Like Us, 6 of 1. Finally, just Friends. NBC pushed for a diner instead of a coffee house. They wanted an older sage character. They wanted a single dominant storyline. To creators David Crane and Marta Kaufman turned down every suggestion. Matthew Perry was the top choice for Chandler Bing from the start. Problem was, he'd already committed to a Fox pilot called LAX 2194, a show about baggage handlers at Los Angeles International Airport in the year 2194. Since Perry thought he was unavailable, he coached his friend Craig Bierko for the Chandler audition. Bierko got offered the role and said no. Jon Favreau also passed. He showed up later as Monica's boyfriend, Pete Becker. John Cryer's video audition tape, a courier lost it. Never got watched. Then, a Fox executive screened LAX 2194 and called it the worst thing they'd ever seen in their lives. The pilot died. Perry was free. Jennifer Aniston had an even scarier situation. She'd already filmed 6 episodes of a CBS sitcom called Muddling Through. She was in second position. If that show got renewed, she'd have to leave Friends. Executive producer Kevin Bright confirmed they had no backup. There was no second Rachel. Aniston begged the Muddling Through producer to let her go. His response was brutal. He'd seen Friends. That wasn't going to make her a star. His show would make her a star. NBC went to war. Scheduling chief Preston Beckman got orders to kill Muddling Through. They scheduled original Danielle Steele TV movies against it on Saturday nights. Crushed the female audience. The show got canceled after just 10 episodes. Its finale aired exactly 2 weeks before Friends premiered. By season 9, each cast member earned $1 million per episode. The show still brings in roughly $1 billion annually. Number 3, the Seinfeld Cast.
What's going on? We're going to shoot the pilot, and then it's going to be on TV the following week.
Yeah, right.
No near-death story in television is more famous than this one. Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David made their pilot. NBC's research department tested it with 400 households, and the internal memo summarized the results in one word: weak. Test audience comments were rough. People couldn't get excited about 2 guys going to the laundromat. They called George a loser who wasn't a forceful character. NBC president Brandon Tartikoff said the show was too New York, too Jewish. When Seinfeld and David finally saw that memo years later, they hung it in a bathroom on the set. The pilot got burned off on July 5th, 1989. 10.9 Nielsen rating. NBC passed on more episodes. Castle Rock tried Fox. Fox passed too. The show was dead. Then Rick Ludwin changed everything. He was NBC's VP of late night and special events. Never worked on a sitcom in his life. He canceled a 2-hour Bob Hope special and used that budget to fund 4 more Seinfeld episodes. Smallest sitcom order in TV history. Ludwin wasn't from New York. He wasn't Jewish. He was from Ohio. When people brought up the too Jewish concern, his response was simple. He thought it was funny. Casting had its own close calls. Jason Alexander played George as a Woody Allen impression for 8 episodes. Then he found out the character was actually based on Larry David. Tony Shalhoub auditioned for Kramer. Elaine didn't exist in the pilot at all. NBC's one note was to put a girl in it. Rosie O'Donnell, Megan Mullally, and Patricia Heaton all tried out before Julia Louis-Dreyfus walked in. Seinfeld knew within 30 seconds. The finale aired May 14th, 1998. 76.3 million viewers. 30-second ads cost over $1 million. NBC offered $5 million per episode for a 10th season. Seinfeld said no. Total syndication revenue through 2017, an estimated $4.06 billion. Netflix paid around $500 million for global streaming rights in 2019. Alan Horn, Castle Rock's head at the time, called Ludwin the unsung hero of Seinfeld. Ludwin died November 10th, 2019. He was 71. Number 2. Archie Bunker. All in the Family.
I'll handle this. Hey, Jefferson, are you asking to come into my house?
Archie Bunker needed 3 pilots across 2 networks over 4 years before he made it to American living rooms. Norman Lear adapted the concept from a BBC show called Till Death Us Do Part back in 1966. He based Archie on his own father, Herman. Even used his dad's catchphrases, like, "stifle yourself." Finding the right actor was a saga. Lear's first choice was Mickey Rooney. Rooney called the character un-American and predicted they were going to kill Lear in the streets for making it. Jackie Gleason was in the mix. CBS actually tried to buy the British show's rights, specifically as a Gleason vehicle. Tom Bosley read for it. Jack Warden read for it. For the role of Michael Meathead Stivic, Harrison Ford got offered the part. He turned it down. Found Archie's bigotry too offensive. Carol O'Connor was living in Rome when they approached him. He was so convinced the show would fail that he demanded a round-trip ticket to Italy as a condition of accepting the role. ABC produced 2 pilots, spent roughly $250,000, then shelved the whole thing after previous controversies, made the network gun-shy. CBS wanted to shed its rural image, so they picked it up. When All in the Family premiered January 12th, 1971, CBS hired dozens of extra switchboard operators expecting angry calls. Every episode had a disclaimer. The outrage never came, but neither did an audience. The premiere pulled a dismal 15% share. 3rd place in its time slot. Summer reruns saved it. By fall of '71, Archie Bunker was the most watched character in America. The show held the #1 Nielsen spot for 5 consecutive seasons. 1971 through 1976. First show ever to do that. 50 million weekly viewers at its peak. Lear reflected on it later. He said it was the 3rd time they got asked to make the show that he cast Rob Reiner and Sally Struthers. He was grateful nobody picked it up before they found them. Number 1. Arthur Fonzie. Fonzarelli. Happy Days.
Hey, observe. Whoa.
The character who started with 6 lines in a pilot script and became the most iconic figure in 70s television. Creator Gary Marshall designed Fonzie as a stupid foil for Ron Howard's Richie Cunningham. Marshall wanted a tall, handsome blonde. On October 30th, 1973, he cast Henry Winkler instead. Short, dark-haired, Yale drama graduate. What happened in that audition became legend. Winkler had just 4 lines, but he asked the director if he could try something. He walked into the bathroom, reached for his comb, then stopped, because his hair was already perfect. That was the Fonz, completely improvised. The runner-up for the role was Mickey Dolenz from The Monkees. The Dolenz admitted later it was supposedly between him and Winkler, but Winkler was just so good. Even after casting, ABC executives fought the leather jacket. They thought it implied criminality. During season 1, Winkler had to wear windbreakers. Marshall worked out a compromise. The jacket could only appear in scenes with Fonzie's motorcycle. Marshall then wrote the motorcycle into every single scene. Here's the thing though, Winkler couldn't actually ride it. He nearly crashed on his first attempt. Never rode it once during the entire series. Happy Days premiered January 15th, 1974. Ranked a modest 16th in the Nielsen ratings. By season 2, CBS scheduled Good Times against it, knocked it out of the top 20. The show was dying. Then, CBS executive Fred Silverman became president of ABC in 1975. He had to save the same show he'd tried to kill. By the 76-77 season, Happy Days was #1 in America, ended all in the family's 5-year reign. When Fonzie's popularity exploded, ABC wanted to rename the show Fonzie's Happy Days. Winkler shot it down himself. He said the show was about his relationship with the family. Take him away from the family, you don't have much. That leather jacket is in the Smithsonian now. Winkler, now 80 years old, won his first Primetime Emmy in 2018 for HBO's Barry, so 45 years after he almost lost the role to a monkey. Conclusion. So there they are. 11 iconic TV characters who almost never existed. There's a pattern running through all these stories. Every single one of these characters faced at least 2 existential threats. Network rejection, plus a casting disaster. A boycott and format skepticism. A failed movie, and a pilot crisis. What saved them? Almost always, it's one person willing to put their reputation on the line. Rick Ludwin canceled Bob Hope for Seinfeld. Chris Carter told Fox their bombshell Scully wasn't happening. Gary Marshall rode a motorcycle into every scene just to keep a leather jacket on screen. Think about the money involved here. If Rick Ludwin doesn't redirect that Bob Hope budget, $4 billion in Seinfeld syndication never happens. If Matt Groening signs away his comic strip, a $10 to $15 billion Simpsons franchise never gets sketched in a lobby. If Fox greenlights LAX 2194, Matthew Perry spends $19.94 playing a futuristic baggage handler instead of becoming Chandler Bing. These stories tell us something important. The most consequential moments in television don't happen in writers' rooms or on sound stages. They happen in scheduling meetings, contract negotiations, network waiting rooms, the unglamorous places where luck, persistence, one person's conviction determine whether a character lives or dies before anyone ever sees them. Next time you're watching your favorite show, remember, there's a very good chance it almost didn't exist. That makes it worth appreciating even more. Thanks for watching. If you liked this trip through television history, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which of these near misses surprised you most. See you in the next one.